All right, priest, bishop, deacons, part D. I just want to say a few key facts on these, and we can talk about the whys and a few of those important facts. First of all, bishop. It's called the episcopate. They are, of course, what we've talked about before, the direct apostles' successors. What's unique, they receive the fullness, get that down, fullness of the sacrament of holy orders. Holy orders has to do with the authority of Christ given to the apostles to teach, baptize, or to teach, sanctify, govern, right? From that Matthew 28 commandment, all right? Because of this, they receive the fullness of that authority that Christ gave the 12. They are the only ones who can confer that same sacrament to others. Why? Right? We can only give the authority that we have. Right? Think about this. We'll use this example throughout this as well. You, in my class, can't give out PHs, right? You don't have the authority to give out PHs. You also can't say to your friend, I now give you the authority to hand out PHs. Not at all the case. I have that authority. I can give it to you, right? Now that I give you the authority to hand out PHs, it doesn't mean you have the authority to cancel class, right? You only have the authority that I give to hand out PHs, and that's it, right? We'll see that as we look at priests as well and their authority. But I have the fullness of authority, right? And so only I can confer that same fullness of authority, right? So that would be the case. That's why they alone can offer it. Okay, great. What about the bishops? What else? They have a local and a universal focus. How is that the case? Well, they take care of their own diocese, which we'll mention in a second, their own local community. And they also, as a part of the Episcopal College, right, that unity of bishops throughout the whole world, have a view and have a concern for the whole universal church's concerns and problems, right? So they look at their own church and they take care of it as the local shepherd, but they also are unified with the brothers for the whole world and recognize the needs of the entire church community. Okay? The role of the bishop in a particular church. Each bishop, right, is there to guide, is there to shepherd, to teach, baptize, to govern his local community. That local church, that particular church is called the diocese, right? Or it's also called the see, okay? He is Christ's chosen representative. So he is the legitimate pastor of all the faithful in this area, in the diocese. Therefore, the legitimate pastor of the Diocese of Galveston-Houston is Archbishop Cardinal DiNardo, right? The Pope is actually the Bishop of Rome, right? Cardinal DiNardo has the fullness of the apostolic authority over this region. Now, all the bishops also are called the local conferences. Conferences are organizations in a geographical area. So we have the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. So you can go to usccp.org and get some information, right? That helps them coordinate activities and deal with the concerns for this local area. America would be totally different than concerns for maybe Africa. The cathedral itself, every diocese has a cathedral. Neat. We actually in Galveston, Houston, since it's Galveston-Houston, we have a co-cathedral. It's not two cathedrals. We have the original cathedral, which is in Galveston, and we have the co-cathedral, which is in the heart of downtown Houston, right? Sacred Heart Cathedral. So the word cathedral, where does it come from? It comes from cathedra, means chair, the chair from which a wise man teaches or guides, right? This idea of authority. Jesus mentions it once, the cathedra Moseos, that is talking about the Pharisees teach from the chair of Moses, right? Very important. Jesus is talking about he has authority, so listen, because they are in that place of authority of Moses, right? It's an authority to teach given by God and handed on, right? So listen to that. Just don't do what they say. The apostles then give their office the name episcopate, overseer, office holder. So when they teach, when they act in their role in their office, right, you could say they are acting in their cathedral, in their chair from a wise man, right? So the cathedral is that building that has the chair right, of the bishop, of the apostle, right? So every cathedral, every diocese has a cathedral, the seat, right, symbolically of the teaching authority and the sanctifying authority of the apostle and his successor, the bishop. St. Ignatius of Antioch even says the bishops preside in the place of God himself, right? Already in 100 AD, you have that idea, right? The bishop, right, is like the father figure, right? That's pointing us towards Christ and God, the true and always essential Father, right? Okay. Ecumenical councils, what are these? Well, they gather together, right? The who? The bishops of the world gather in ecumenical councils. There's ecumenical of the whole inhabited world. The first one, well, the prototype was in Jerusalem in 50 AD, but the first one was Nicaea. Okay, nice. A-E-A, Nicaea. All right. The first 6 councils all deal with who is Jesus Christ, right? Dealing with heresies about Christology and Trinitarian heresies. Ecumenical, we just said, all inhabited world. Eastern Orthodox churches don't recognize any councils in the West after 787. Why not? They didn't have any representatives, no reps, right? And if there's no reps, they don't say it's of the whole inhabited world, including them, so they don't recognize those. The most recent council was 62 to 65, Vatican II. Priest, name of the office of priest, presbyterate, elder. You see it in the early church. You see it in Scripture, the presbyterate, not the bishop, right? But the presbyterate. What's that mean? Talking about that same example I used before. If I don't give you the fullness of my authority, but I give you the authority to give out PHs, right? You have part of my authority, and you can only give that authority in my rule, right? In my regulation, right? You're not going to give out a PH in somebody else's class. I give you the authority to give out PH in my class, right? So what does that mean? That's what sort of the priest and presbyterate is. The priest can't act independently of his bishop. He's given the authority from his bishop, and so the bishop gives him the power to confer sacraments, but he can't do it without the bishop's permission. Why? Authority, grace given, right? He doesn't have magical power, right? It's a place of authority. It's grace, the authority of Christ handed down, right? So he acts in the person of Christ, though. In persona Christi is what it's called. And so he performs the sacraments in the person of Christ. Christ is the one who gives the sacraments. The priest and the bishop is in the person of Christ. Deacon. Deacon means servant. He has a ministry of service. There are 2 types of deacon. Transitional, those on their way to priesthood, and permanent deacons. Those are the ones that remain. That's their highest place of authority, diaconate. Examples of service, giving out communion, witnessing marriages, and so on and so forth. All right? We won't read that. You can pause this if you want to read. Here's the information from the Catechism and short synopsis of when bishops exercise their authority to teach, to sanctify, to govern. That's it. 8 minutes, 21 seconds.